You don't need more leads, you just need better leads. Welcome back to Midweek Modern Craftsman. As always, I appreciate all of you hanging around, listening to this, reposting this, supporting this. It's been really nice, to say the least. I have a lot of people who are constantly reaching out to me, letting me know how helpful it is to them and their business. So I just want to start off by saying how much I appreciate you and how much I appreciate the support. If you guys and girls are not part of our Modern Craftsman community, you need to stop whatever you're doing right now and change that, right? Hop onto our Instagram, go onto our profile, go onto our website, sign up for the newsletter, also register for our Circle community. With that Circle community, you are going to gain access to monthly email monthly virtual workshops, not email, where you can hop on. Basically, it's going to be a live podcast where we are tackling a specific topic. We are actually, by the time this comes out, we will have just completed our first one. So if you want to be a part of that, reach out to us, hop on, sign up for the Circle community. If you're confused about it, you have questions, send us an email, hello@moderncraftsman.co, shoot us a DM, whatever you need to do, make sure that you are not missing out on this. So this week's podcast, I wanted to briefly discuss what we're really diving into on these monthly workshops and what we want to be tackling, and really the driving force behind what we're trying to do here. It's been years that Nick and I have been going through all of this. We have all of our coursework. We have our consulting. We have our weekly podcast where we're just diving into all of this. But we're trying, and what we've been trying to do for years now is tie all of this together. And we want to basically create a framework for you to be able to start a business, refine a business, restructure your business from top to bottom. So what we've learned just from speaking with people, diving into business, our network of builders and contractors, is that so many of us are in the exact same boat. We're stuck at a point in our business that we don't know how to get out of. And there's a few reasons why. But everything is technically working, right? You have business, you're meeting your numbers as far as revenue goes, but it doesn't feel any easier, right? You thought that you'd be at a point now in business, however many years into it, where I've reached all my goals. I'm bringing in the work that I need to. I made the hires. I feel I have the systems in place, but nothing's easier. Why am I working more? Why am I not working less? So yeah, you're making more money. You're more stressed. Everything, regardless of how many people you have, still winds up on your plate. And this is where I feel that most of us get stuck, and where most people that I speak with are having trouble. And it's not, I think a lot of us want to dig our heels in. We want to bear down. We want to just work harder, but it's not going to change anything. You're not going to outwork this problem. It has to be about your process. It has to be about your systems. It has to be about your business. So let's break it down to the beginning. Why did you get into this industry? Why did you start your own business? Why did you want to become a contractor, build homes, remodel, carpenter, whatever it may be, plumber, electrician? Why did you get into this? And most of us wanted to build something that we are proud of. We wanted to work for ourselves. We wanted to pave our own path. We wanted some meaningful outlet or something meaningful in our lives. And I would venture to say that most of us probably didn't get into this because we wanted to respond to emails, we wanted to chase down subs, we wanted to just be answering questions, we wanted to be fielding calls 24/7, and we wanted to work 8-9 days a week. Yeah, I know that that's not possible, but it feels like that at times. So when you first start, you're growing, you're learning, it feels that you're getting closer to that dream, and it continues to grow, it continues to evolve, and you feel that you're getting closer, but nothing ever seems to be getting easier. As you reach these benchmarks, or as you reach these goals that you thought or you told yourself something would change, nothing really changes other than it's become more consuming. So yeah, I'm making more money. Yeah, I've grown the business. Yeah, my revenue's higher, but nothing's really easier. I'm not fixing any problems. I'm not able to step back. I just haven't. The business has not evolved. So why is this happening? What is it? What are we accounting for in this? So it's growth, right? You start your business, you're at ground zero, and you want to grow. So the first year you grow a little bit, second year you grow more, you make your first hire. Year 5, right? You went from a few $100,000 in revenue to $500,000. You're at $1 million, $2 million, whatever it is. But all you've really focused on is that revenue, and you haven't addressed any of the systems. So growth without these systems, although on paper it may look okay, it's just making everything worse. Your stress multiplies. So every decision still is going through you. You're the estimator, you're the project manager, the client liaison, you're the problem solver, you are everything. Even when you are hiring people or putting people in place, you are still their safety net. So all weight bears down on you. You now have payroll pressure because you've hired people. So you've gone from feeding yourself to feeding multiple employees to feeding multiple families. And now any time that you hit a lull, or you don't have the buffer of work lined up, or the funnel, you feel as though you have to panic. Your risk has increased over the years, right? You have a higher overhead, you have more employees, you have bigger jobs, you have bigger exposure, you have bigger insurance payments. Most of the guys and girls that I know are running bigger jobs, bigger companies, but they're still using the systems from when they were at $500,000 in revenue. They haven't fully evolved. They haven't integrated or implemented new systems. They're just making it all work. Your hours are not dropping. And this, to me, is one of the biggest lies in construction. You think that you're going to be able to grow to get to a point to take the tool belt off, to hire people, and it's going to gain you more freedom. And I have rarely seen it actually do that. In reality, most people, when they make it to $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, are working considerably more than they were sub $1 million. And maybe they're making more money. Maybe they're providing a lifestyle through their business and being self-employed that is checking some of the boxes, but they're working considerably more. If you're at 3 million, I would venture to say that typically you're working more than 3x from when you were at 1 million. And to me, that's where there's major issues within the structure of your business. So while we're all trying to build a business, while we're working on the business, while we're growing, we feel that we are actually building a business, but what you're really doing is building a job that requires you and your time and almost entirely you. So let's talk about this plus $1 million mark, the $2 to $7 million. I feel that this is where most builders get to a point where they either plateau or they burn out. And this is a very dangerous area to plateau or burn out because you have a higher overhead, you have more risk, you have more exposure, you have a team of people. You're not producing this type of work. You can, but most people who are living in this range they have a team of people. So they have an overhead. You've outgrown being solo, but you don't have proper infrastructure. You just haven't gotten there, right? You've grown to this point, and you focus so much on sales and getting more work and hiring people to be able to produce more work, but you haven't really just bared down on what needs to happen to make sure that you're profitable. So you're not small anymore, but you're not really a structured business. You have people in your business, but they more than likely can't operate independently of you. You have multiple projects going on, but they rely on you to keep them all moving. So your days, your overall life, your workflow feels like you're constantly getting interrupted. Everyone needs you. Everyone's asking you questions. You don't have time to think. You're reacting. And this is just a perfect example that this growth without proper systems is just organized chaos at best. And as you grow, it continues to just be more organized chaos at a larger scale. So why is this exacerbated? Why does this get worse? I feel, after speaking to a lot of people and really analyzing a lot of businesses, my business, Nick's business, all of the people that we're associated with, that we're often trying to treat the symptom and not the cause. And I think that this is indicative of a lot of aspects of life, whether it's your health, weight that you've gained, just how you feel on a daily basis, your mental well-being. We're often trying to treat the symptoms and not the cause. So from a business perspective, right, you think that you need more leads. So you may need more leads, but more than likely you don't need more leads. You just need better leads. So you need a better system to create and funnel those leads and then qualify those leads. So it's not just that you need more leads, right? If you want to increase your revenue, one way to do it is just take more jobs, or you can vet those clients, those projects to better fitting jobs that either create better margins with the same revenue or more revenue while still maintaining those margins but not adding a ton of work, right? So you're becoming more efficient, you're becoming more productive. You often think that, or blame, that your issue in business are bad clients, right? Bad clients are a symptom of poor business. Yeah, there's some clients that get through, but bad clients generally are a symptom of shortcomings within your business. It's not just the clients, right? It's a process problem. You haven't defined a scope. You haven't set proper realistic expectations. You don't have structure and a system and a workflow and a project roadmap for these clients to understand where they stand in that process, what they should expect, what they paid for, how their money's being spent. So yeah, they seem like they're a pain in the ass because they just don't know. And they're asking questions and they want to understand why this is this way and why they can't afford that. So it's not the clients. You have to realize that the clients are a symptom of the shortcomings within your business. You feel that you can't find good employees. Probably, yeah, there's times you hire employees and, right, they interview well, they have the credibility, they have the experience, and they're duds. It happens. But more often than not, it's because you don't have a good hiring process. You're winging it. You don't have structure to that process. You don't have proper onboarding. What does an employee do once you hire them? Is there a training program? Or is there a trial period? Or do you have an actual process in place for how that employee becomes a new hire within your business to somebody who can work their way up through the ranks? Do you have defined roles within your business? We're often relying on personality for hires instead of a structured system that's going to afford us the best opportunity to hire the most qualified individual and train them and onboard them for a successful venture for all of you. So again, it's not always that, yeah, I just can't find good people. There's no good people out there to hire. It's probably that your system is flawed. You're always saying that projects are chaotic. Do you have a proper schedule in place? Do you have communication systems? Do you have protocol? Do you have accountability metrics for these projects, these employees, the people running the projects? every job that you're doing feels as though it's a custom one-off job because you do not have systems in place. If you're doing $500,000 a year and you have one person who works for you, it's just you, you can get by with this. When you're doing $2 to $7 million and you have people in place and you have an overhead and you are relying on productivity and maintaining efficiency and keeping a lean overhead, you cannot be running projects as if they're one-off. There has to be a roadmap, there has to be expectations, there has to be a process for you and for your clients. So often we're relying on ourselves as the system. That can't be the case. You are the bottleneck within the company. You are the bottleneck for productivity, for systems, for profitability, for revenue. You are the issue. You need to find a way to create systems where you are not the bottleneck. You may be a very talented builder. You may be a very talented carpenter, tradesman, tradeswoman. You're incredible at building projects, but that is very different than building a company. It's a different skill set. You have different tools that you need to put in place to run a company efficiently and successfully than a project efficiently and successfully. You have to understand that at $500,000, you might be able to be the system. At sub $1 million, you might be able to be the system. You're not creating that much of a bottleneck. But at $1 million, at $2 million, at $3 million, that starts to break. You become the weakest link within that system. At $10 million, it's impossible. You're just going to be creating so much stress. There's going to be so many issues. You are going to be losing so much money. Even if you are breaking even if you're supporting your lifestyle, even if you were profitable, you are leaving so much money on the table and doing possibly 2x the amount of work that you need to be doing because your systems are not robust enough to be handling that type of work. So the easiest way to put this is, are you a builder? Are you a contractor? Or are you the owner of a business? A builder is going to be very project focused. They're going to be reactive. And an owner is going to be very system focused. They're going to be proactive. They're going to be making sure that the business is sustainable from top to bottom, not just each individual project. If everything in your business depends on you, then you are capped. You are at capacity. There's no room for growth within your business. So how do you create a successful business? How are you going to grow? How are you going to develop this business that can support the growth that you need without just saying, hey, let's chase revenue. Let's make it, I want to make $5 million in sales this year. That's not the right move. You need to focus on financial systems. You need to focus on lead generation. You need to focus on pre-construction. You need to focus on production and on your team. Those are the 5 pillars of your business that you need to be focusing on. So let's just discuss them really quickly, high level. Again, this is something that we're going to be digging into once a month within the Modern Craftsman community, live on these workshops. You can attend, you can ask questions, you can interact with us, but we're going to be digging into these if you're part of that Modern Craftsman community, if you're part of the Modern Craftsman circle. So make sure that you are checking this out. So number 1, your financial systems. Do you actually know your numbers? Do you understand your job costing before and during and after projects? Do you understand your overhead? Do you understand your actual profit? Most of us think that we're profitable and we're not taking into account our numbers. We're not taking into account our investment of time, right? So we're cheating it. We're making our business, we're lying to ourselves that our business is actually profitable without taking into account all of the concessions as a business owner. If you do not understand your numbers, you will never be able to make a decision or an educated decision how to move ahead with your business. You have zero metric for if that decision works or if it doesn't work. The financial impact of that decision, if you should continue down that road or if it was a poor financial decision, because you have nothing to base it on. You also need to have a great lead generation system. Then this is not just lead generation, this is marketing. It's understanding how to develop a funnel, how to bring new leads in, how to nurture existing leads, how to classify qualified leads that are coming in, how to maintain as low of an investment on your end cultivating and maintaining and assessing these leads as possible. You're not just looking to get more leads, you're looking to attract better leads, the right leads. You're positioning yourself for the right leads rather than chasing every lead that comes across your plate. For years, I convinced people to hire me. That wasn't the right move. If you have a adequate lead generation system, if you're marketing yourself correctly, you shouldn't have to convince people to hire you. You also need to have a proper pre-construction system. Regardless of market, where you live, type of work that you do, this is a big one for us. It's something we've been preaching for years. If you skip this, you are signing up for chaos. You need to make sure that you're getting paid for your discovery, to develop scope, to ensure that your client's program aligns with what you offer as a business. All of this needs to be done during pre-construction. It needs to be a separate part of your business. You have to create proper expectations within that entire system. It should be a consulting service. It is mandatory for success. And there's a lot that goes along with that. There's a lot to dig into, which we will continue to do so. But pre-construction is not just about getting them an estimate. It's about making sure that there's alignment and the expectations are set properly. You need a production system. You need to have scheduling systems. You need to have communication systems within your business. There needs to be accountability systems and metrics within your business. If you are required to babysit your projects, babysit your employees in order to maintain the production that's necessary for your business to be profitable and successful, then you do not have a proper production system in place. You need systems for your teams. You need roles. You need defined roles. You need a hiring process. You need to be able to train and onboard employees. You need to be able to move employees through the ranks. You need systems to be able to delegate people within the business. And that all should not come down to you. If everything comes back to you, you don't have a system in place. Every problem that you all are dealing with in business, every single problem, if you just started your business, if you're 15 years into business, every single problem that you are experiencing or you have experienced ties back to these 5 systems that we're focusing on. Absolutely the case. If you don't have these 5 systems in place, and even when you do, it's not going to be perfect, but if you don't have these 5 systems in place, if you're not constantly working on maintaining and structuring these systems, you are going to be working like an absolute dog for a very long time. So what can you expect if you develop these systems, if you stabilize these systems, if you work on these 5 pillars of your business? More predictable profit, so you don't need to guess how much work you need to take. You don't need to guess what your numbers are going to look like, what your taxes are going to be like what your projections will be at the end of the year. You will have smoother projects, which means more profitability, more efficiency, happier and better morale within your business. You're going to have better clients because you're going to be setting proper expectations, maintaining those expectations, and remaining on your client's good side. They're going to be spending their money as they see fit. They're going to have a great experience with you. And most importantly, you're going to be regaining control of not only your business, but your life. So with these systems, one of the big things that just sticks out to me that is such a huge, this one sentence to me just rings so true, and it speaks so loudly to me because it's what I feel is one of the biggest hurdles and one of the biggest issues within our business is that we chase revenue rather than margin. what we feel is the cure, the silver bullet to all of our issues is more revenue, when we should be focusing on margin. And working on these 5 pillars will allow you to stop chasing revenue and focus on margin, especially if you're in this $2 to $7 million range. Even if you're less, like if you focus less on revenue and more on margin and more on maintaining a lower overhead and less callbacks and less resources to do the same amount of work or less amount of work, and focusing on your profitability and your margins, you're going to be in a much better place. You're able to take on fewer jobs, better jobs. Your team is able to start solving problems instead of constantly bringing problems to you, and you will actually have time to think, to plan, to grow, and to have a life outside of your business, which I think a lot of us yearn for, right? We started a business and we are just absolutely handcuffed to this business, and a lot of us want that, but we don't necessarily need that all the time. It'd be nice to be able to step away from that, right? We're the type of personalities that, yeah, this is what we want, this is what we signed up for, but maybe 80% of the time. Does it need to be 120% of the time? No. So I want you all to remember, it's not just about doing more, it's about doing the right things with the proper structure behind them. So if you're feeling stuck, it's not because you're not working hard enough, right? I have all these consulting clients where it's like, hey, if you're not making the money that you need to, it's not because you're not working hard enough. It's not because, right, you're just spending money frivolously. There's issues within the industry. There's fundamental issues within the industry that you need to make sure that you are focusing on the right things in order to be successful. If you're just competing with everyone else, if you're just hitting the same numbers as everyone else, if you're still structuring your business the same way, you are going to struggle, because that is the basis for our industry. It's price driven, there's low margins, and you are going to struggle through life and through business. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be what makes up 90% of the construction industry, relying on 10% margins. It's just not a happy place to be in. If you are able to develop a better structure for your business, if you're able to understand your numbers, if you're able to invest in some of these systems and really inventorying your business, you're going to get where you want to within business, and it's not going to be as consuming. So the shift is going to have to be from that guy or girl who does everything within the business to building something that can operate without you, or just with less of your time, with less resources from you. So the builders who scale aren't the ones who work the hardest. And that's what I feel most of us think. That the harder you work, right, get up, grind, wake up at 4 a.m., It's blue collar life, dirty hands, clean money, and I owned that for a long time. But what about just working smarter? At this point in my life, at 40 years old, I'd rather work less to make the same amount of money, or work less and make more, and be proud of how little I'm able to work, than me getting 14, 16 hours out of a day. To me, and that was a flag that I flew for a long time. It was the hustle, the grind, that culture. Why? You look at the uber successful people, and they're not bragging about how hard they work to get to where they are. They're bragging about how their money makes money for them, how they don't necessarily need to work, how they're not slaves to their business, to their company, to their clients, right? They're doing it the right way. They're doing it from a business mindset. They are savvy when it comes to those things, and I think that we need to take a page out of that book. Those are the people who built the systems first and then grew the company around it, rather than grew the company and then tried to implement the systems, or just never implemented the system, which is what most of us are guilty of. So if you are interested in really just changing your business, changing your life, if you have been enjoying the financial aspects, the business related conversations, if you just want to better your life, your business, and make some serious changes because you are tired of just struggling. You're tired of feeling as though you are walking through mud, walking through quicksand. You are just trying to keep your head above water. Again, sign up for the newsletter. It's absolutely free. You'll have access to a lot of this stuff. Sign up for the Circle community. Fully immerse yourself in what we're doing with the Modern Craftsman, and I promise you, you will not regret it. So hop onto our website, sign up for the newsletter. Again, sign up for the Circle community. Continue to listen to these podcasts midweek, main episode. Hop on these monthly live workshops where we're digging into these 5 pillars of business. Sometimes more broadly, sometimes we'll hone in on one specific topic. Maybe you guys want to request a topic. You can be part of that conversation live. The only way you're going to do that is by signing up for the newsletter and then becoming a part of this Modern Craftsman Circle community. So as always, I appreciate everyone hanging around. I appreciate all my consulting clients. I love all of you. I appreciate all the time that we get to we speak, that we get to really assess your business, dive into things. It's just so interesting to me. It's so rewarding to me. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email, tyler@trghomeconcepts.com. If you have any questions about the newsletter, the Modern Craftsman community, whatever that may be, you can shoot us an email at hello@moderncraftsman.co or tyler@trghomeconcepts.com. I guess that about wraps it up. Hopefully by the time this comes out, I saw a bunch of you on this workshop and answered a bunch of your questions. So I'll catch you all next week.